Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. And today, we're being joined by Jason Leenaarts, author of A Revolution a Day. Jason, welcome to the show.
Paul, thank you so much for having me. It's a real pleasure.
Well, we are thrilled to have you. Are you ready to begin?
I'm ready.
All right. Question number one. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
I would say that the best piece of advice that I could offer would be to make sure that you have deadlines you can stick to. That was one thing that for myself, and especially the nature of the book that I wrote, it was something where I gave myself probably a lengthier deadline than what I needed. And what I ended up doing was I procrastinated way too long, and then it really shortened that time window up, and it made me just have to try to finish it in just a frantic pace. And for someone who's self-publishing, you can give yourself all the leeway in the world. And so I found that the tighter I stuck to the deadline, the more work I got accomplished.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
Well, when you self-publish, you really sort of, you rule your own roost, and you set your own schedule and all those kind of things. And one thing that I've talked about others with is, if they're into your work, they might say, I've thought about writing a book someday, and it just kind of remains a thought. And if you don't have a publishing company that's there to offer you in advance and give you a deal, you can sit there and spin your wheels and just, spend your time thinking about it and not get anything done. So I would say for the self-publishers out there, it's really just about getting the work done and really just making sure it's ready for mass viewing.
Well, let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that has worked well.
Sure. So I'm sure you can probably appreciate this. You're a host of a podcast, and I'm a host of one as well. And while yours focuses on folks who are trying to get work published, my podcast is focused on people in and around the health and fitness industry. And the nature of my book is such this. If anyone has heard of The Daily Stoic by Ryan Holiday, it was Ryan's way of taking Stoic philosophy and kind of giving a more modern angle to it. And I thought that, I really like that idea. And when I think about, the tenure of my show, I've like you, I'm well into the 200s of episodes that I've released. And it was one of those things where I thought there's so much good information that's here. And I bet you I could probably take little nuggets of information from the tenure of the show and kind of turn that into something of a daily meditation. And so the way the book's formatted is, when you flip to a certain day, today we're in the middle of June, not sure exactly when this show will be released, but you could flip to that day, you would see a quote from one of my episodes from one of my guests, some thoughts that I have about that quote, and then space for the reader to kind of write down their own thoughts and their interpretations of that. So as a marketing strategy, what worked for me was just being able to utilize all the guests that I'd had that I was able to feature in the book and let them sort of promote the book for me, because I was giving out complimentary copies to the guests who had asked for physical copies that they could hold on to, and so send out autographed versions of those, and really kind of helping branch out through their platforms was probably one of the best things I could have done.
Excellent. Yeah, I've actually on Ryan's email list, fellow Texan. He's based here in Texas, and I love his weekly emails he sends out, and he utilizes a lot of philosophy from Marcus Aurelius. So it's definitely one of those newsletters that I really enjoy checking out, and he always has a lot of great information on it.
Agreed.
Well, speaking of books, I'd like to know what is your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
I like books that spark people to action, and that's not every kind of book that I read, but especially since we're on the whole wavelength of getting things done and, really getting your book out there and trying to put all in the legwork that you need to be able to do so. A lot of it is just about making sure that you got your eye on the prize. And so one of the books that really stuck out for me about trying to sort of get out of your head and making sure that you're actually getting things done is The War of Art by Steven Pressfield.
And why is that one of your favorite books?
I like it just because it's a call to action book. It's just one of those things that when you read it, it's like, yeah, that's that mental hiccup that I've got that's stopping me from moving forward. And I think for people who talk a lot about this is the thing I want to do, and as I mentioned earlier, a lot of folks I talk to say, well, I'd love to write a book someday. Okay, we'll do it. Well, and they kind of cough up all these different reasons why they can't do it. And so the book talks about that. That's what he calls resistance. And so it's about defeating that resistance so that you can actually get the work that you want to done.
Great points with that. And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
Yeah, this is a personal one for me, and it's sort of timely because we're recording this right before Father's Day. But I lost my father in 2011. He was the greatest man I've ever known. And weeks before he passed away, I was having a fairly emotional moment because I knew that he wasn't going to be with us much longer. And I said, Dad, I'm on my best day, I'm never going to be the man that you are. And he said, just be a good father. And those are words I've carried with me for the last almost 10 years. And I'm a father to two beautiful boys. And it's something that I have to keep in my mind every day. So it's not by a celebrity, but he's a celebrity in my eyes. So it would be just good, be a good father.
That is an excellent quote. Jason, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
Sure. So I do have several reference points because a lot of it kind of goes to my business. But if you want to see the stuff that I write, and of course, if you want to purchase the book, one place to look would be my name, so jasonleenaarts.com, and that's LEENAARTS. I do a weekly blog, and I also update with our weekly podcast. And the books I've written too are both on Amazon for both Kindle and physical purchase.
Jason, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how to get your book published with a proven system that works, grab a free copy of my book at getpublishedpodcast.com.